Yeah, and just before we start, I want to remind you all, if you didn't join yet, I'm putting the link in the chat. We are running a 30 days challenge to go deeper into the wood element. Um, you can still join. We are on the first day, and if you join today or tomorrow, every day you one new video will open up for you. Um, so you can enjoy the spring feeling and the wood element and go every day, get some different perspective about it. But today we are meeting with Nienke, a medical doctor, an acupuncturist, a master face reading from the Lillian tradition, um, heart coherence practitioner, and I'm sure I forgot a lot of other things. And I just mentioned before that I don't know how she managed to do all those things. It's truly inspiring, Nienke.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will ask you in a second about it all. And I was just thinking to, if you don't mind, to start with one quote that I really I found it fitting. I will read it from the screen. It's from Bernie Siegel. I hope most of you know him. Was a medical doctor who wrote the book Love, Medicine, and Miracles, and he's saying that I'm convinced that unconditional love is the most powerful known stimulant of the immune system. If I told patients to raise their blood levels of immune globulins or killer T cells, no one would know how. But if I can teach them to love themselves and others fully, the same changes happen automatically. The truth is, love heals.
Hmm. Wow, what a beautiful quote. I really have to put that down somewhere
Uh,
because I can totally agree with that. Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
yeah, I will send it to you later. I have. I think
Yeah.
we will come back to it because I think that's today's topic, basically. Uh,
Yes.
Love, and it's a fitting day in the commercial days of Valentine to speak about maybe different form of love or different expression of love, let's say, that really heals and transform and has so much meaning in our life as humans and as practitioners. But first, maybe let's get to know you a little bit because, like I said, you did so many things. So what was, how did you end up doing medical school?
Hmm. Yeah, or how did end up becoming a sort of Dr. Love because that's my nickname here in Holland.
Ah,
Um, and yeah, love as the best medicine. I would really invite everyone in this call right now. I mean, we're from Australia till San Francisco, and I mean, I'm just in awe of this big community. And feeling into that quote that was just read, like breathing in and out and just having that, vibrate in your cells for a moment to realize, like, wow, we have such incredible natural potential for healing within us just by the sheer simple, or is it simple, but the sheer moment of appreciation of, like, wow, we can have that kind of effect on our physical bodies, on our immune system. We can inspire our patients, our clients to have that effect in themselves. I think that's, for me, the main motivation in my work. And I really thank you for, reminding me of that just by starting this conversation with such a quote. Um, I remember finishing high school and getting the advice to become a medical doctor, and I was very not in favor of that idea. So I decided to travel, and I took a backpack to Australia. So Australia, I love you, and it all started in Australia because as I was backpacking through Australia, I had a lot of back pain. I was a professional hockey player for a lot of years as a child, a field hockey player. And I had a car accident once. And I think somewhere in that process, my back was really in a bad shape. And taking up a backpack made it even worse. And I came on a farm and someone told me you should go see that and that doctor in Australia and he can help you. And it was a bit of a quest. So I went there and I met this incredible healer, acupuncturist, herbal medical doctor, a Qigong master. He was basically some sort of a witch on a hill, doing incredible things with his patients. And I was like, okay, now I understand why people think I should become a medical doctor, because if it could be like this, it would be a whole yes. And so I trained with him. I stayed there for 2 weeks. He treated me. He's totally healed my back. It was an incredible experience. And yes, that was the start for me. And the funny thing was, I registered to start medical school. But in Holland at that time, we had a numerous fixes, and it was like a lottery system to get in. And basically, my number was way too high, so I wouldn't get in. So I came back to him saying, like, I can stay in Australia. I can train with you. I won't need to do that whole medical school thing. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what you're doing. And he said, no, 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 don't make the same mistake I did. You go to medical school, you get that degree, you get the recognition, and then, come back or do your own schooling. But, that's really my recommendation. I missed that one. And now I'm always fighting against, the so-called experts because they don't trust my process or my trade. And so I went back to Holland, studied psychology for a year, and then went into medical school, finished medical school, became an ER doctor at the acute trauma center in my neighborhood, advanced trauma life support, trained medical doctor. And I sometimes joke that I'm still advanced trauma life support coach, but now more on a psychological level and in the healing arts. Because as I was working in the medical field, I became pregnant with my first child, and I was doing night shifts. I was doing long days of work, and it was basically very unhealthy for me and my baby. At that time, I didn't realize, I wasn't so much aware yet of the effects of stress on the unborn child. I knew a lot about the effects of stress on the immune system and all that, because for my thesis, I'd studied psychoneuroimmunology. But still, I wasn't so, I guess, conscious about that kind of impacts. But then my child was born 3 weeks advance of the 40 weeks. He was way too small for his birth date. He was 2,250 grams. It was maybe 48 centimeters. He was this tiny little ancient man, you could say, in my arms. And it suddenly struck me like, wow, I've been working so hard for a healthy community, and I forgot about my own health. I forgot about the health of my child. I cannot turn back time. So I have to help him to cope with the fact that he's so small, and at least diminish the effects of all the stress he'd already had. And I had already started studying acupuncture by that time. You asked, like, how did you do all that? Well, basically, I made a very bold decision in that year to focus completely on the acupuncture study and to quit the job at the medical hospital and to raise my son most of the time, not to put him in daycare because he was so tiny. And so that was a big, bold step, you could say, out of the established medical centers. And I took the time to study like everything I could get my hands on regarding to stress and health, coaching, trauma, well, the whole like body mind medical field, you could say, the integrative medical arts. This was 2005. There was no school for integrative medicine in Holland. There was a very good school in the USA, but I could not attend because I had one child, and then came another and came another. So I had 3 children in 4 or 5 years' time. And I started my own clinic working as a medical doctor and acupuncturist and coach. And that's basically how this train started rolling, you could say.
Wow, it's an inspiring story, Nienke. Um, and it's amazing that you went through this all 7 years of medical school and you still had the passion straight away to go back to kind of what you found that pulled you so much in the beginning, this other medicine, actually. And it's in our world, it's maybe a good tip what you got there.
Well, I really promised myself also this acupuncturist in Australia, but I realized I wanted to be someone who could build bridges um, across domains and speak several languages, you could say,
Yeah,
because I truly believe in the power of a traditional medicine and the healing arts. And I've seen at the ER like how life-saving Western medicine can be and what we can achieve if there's an acute situation. And we are complementary. And right now, the past 7 years, I've been trained in working with a biophoton diagnostic technology, which comes from quantum physics and fuse the body again on a whole different level, and it's more based on vibrational medicine. And with today's technology and today's computers, you can actually make that visual and show people like what you measure. And then I think, wow, this is going to be maybe the medicine of 10, 20 years ahead when that hits home in the in
yeah.
the regular field. But I think I've been always been a pioneer amongst my uh, colleagues, medical doctors, and trying to find new ways to, yeah, find the science, for example, by what we know in traditional medicine. So that's how I came to Heart Coherence and the Heart Math Institute in USA. I
So,
became a
so
heart,
just before, because I would like to hear
yeah.
more about this, actually, but I think it's an important job that you took on yourself. It's a beautiful one, and I'm sure you enjoy it also, but it's also really much needed, this bridge, what you mentioned, and to speak these languages. And I know many people who watch us, we speak one language, we know a lot, and the more you practice, the more you know anyway about uh, Western medicine or modern medicine. It's part of the life and it's important for us to know it. But many of us around there just think, ah, I don't need it. This is a 3,000, 5,000 years old medicine. I know it works. I don't need to prove it to anybody. And it's okay, I think, to each one of us to feel like this. But as a group of people, as a profession, I think it's so important that we have those people who create those bridges and who explain this medicine to the medical establishment and to just to people around. I mean, I know some of the most important, or most not important, but most popular courses we had last year were about how acupuncture works, like what is it doing actually? And it is a growing interest and there is a growing evidence, and we maybe don't need it to know that when we put a needle it works, but it's still good to have this information. So it's great to have you with us, somebody who is passionate about traditional medicine and have the knowledge and titles and language to communicate it. And then maybe I will take you back to heart coherence and maybe tell us a little bit, or heart math. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about it, maybe on our way towards the heart and love.
Yeah. Well, I just have to clarify that I'm not an expert on explaining how acupuncture works. And
We have
I
enough of
truly
those.
believe that it's also part of the magic with acupuncture. I think a lot of it is still mystery, even in the scientific community. And I feel there is more and more openness created because in the end, it is what is working. To say I sometimes make that explanation with my phone. I don't know how it all works and how this Zoom call works. Like, how is it possible that we are sitting here with San Francisco in Switzerland and Australia, and you in Germany and me in Holland, and we can see each other, we can hear each other, we are virtually in the same room. It's almost like quantum physics, like non-locality and energy work.
Yeah.
And that's the magic, what we are doing as acupuncturists, also what we are living as traditional healers. And the Western scientific community slowly, sort of realizing like we are using this already in so many ways. We're just not seeing that it's actually the same kind of thing. And with the heart coherence, I think, well, one of the uh, other big defining moments, you could say, in my career as a medical doctor was when I came to north of India, to Dharamsala, in the community of Tibetan refugees. I was supposed to do an internship there in the final years of my medical training. And I had organized it all, but in the end, it turned out that they didn't expect me to stay for 3 months. They'd never had a student to stay so long. So basically, it was a bit of a misunderstanding, and I had to decide, like, okay, now I came all the way to India, and I have a place here, but actually they're not looking for me, and they don't expect me to stay so long. So what am I going to do with this time? And I decided to study Buddhism and to practice Buddhism and, do a formal Buddhist training in meditation and yoga, to discover this, tradition, and to find out more about their ways of healing and health through meditation, for example. And one of the main ingredients in there was a heart, you could say, compassion meditation. And I came back in Holland, and I was working in the hospital, and I realized I was using that techniques and that training in my work with my patients, and it was so helpful also for me, especially in difficult situations or with people dying. And I thought, wow, this is like an ancient healing art. So how to explain this to my colleagues? And then I heard about the HeartMath Institute, and I started to train with heart coherence and biofeedback techniques, and measuring my own heart rate variability through the monitors. And one day I thought, wow, what if I would practice these Buddhist mantras and meditations while I'm on that monitor? Let's see what happens. And what I realized was that it was full on heart coherence, what happened. And that, like many of these meditation techniques and mantras, evoke a physical state of coherence. And that's why they're so powerful. And for me, that was like a bridge, like, oh, wow, Western science has really found something that is really powerful. And they think they've discovered it, but basically it's all so many thousand years old again.
Yeah.
And that's what I call the science of love, you could say. Because this coherent state, which you could say is a state of love or bliss or gratitude. Um, some people say positive emotions, but we can even be super coherent when we're very pissed off. If that being pissed off is like very coherent and, upright, in a short moment. When we stay angry for a long time, we all know as practitioners that's harmful for our
Mhm.
bodies. But so coherent emotions have a very powerful effect on the health of the body if they have the space to be expressed or to be felt, to be contained.
How do you define coherent emotion then? If I can be pissed and still coherent?
A coherent emotion, I feel, is an emotion that is truly felt. So if we truly feel joy, like when I said at the beginning of the call, after you read that beautiful quote, like truly allowing yourself to really let that sink in and take your breath as a means of deepening that sort of feeling. Um, there's a natural gratitude, or is a natural spontaneous upwelling of love. And that's coherent. That is that doesn't cost any energy to the body. Actually, it is a means of creating energy, we would say in Chinese medicine.
Mm.
And when we are truly sad about something, maybe we've lost someone that we love so much, and it really hurts, and we allow ourselves to really have that feeling in the natural spontaneity of it upwelling, and we let it sort of flow and flow out again. They found out that takes only like 90 seconds for the body to bring it up and to release and to breathe it out, and it will go away again. It's like a wave. It comes and it goes. What happens is our minds, our thoughts, they catch that wave and they start thinking about it and they start making it into a story. And before you know it, it's really big.
Yeah.
So any emotion, basically, even anger, can be a coherent emotion if it feels true, if it feels like truthful.
So it's like what we say in Chinese medicine: if the patient lose someone, they should feel sadness and grief. It's just when it gets stuck there,
Then it's harmful.
Then it's harmful. Not the emotion themselves as they are, because if we really, okay.
Yeah. So I studied the heart coherence, and when I was doing my thesis for the Chinese medical acupuncture education, I looked up like the Ling Shu chapter 8 of about rooted in spirits and having like that coherence in the Chinese medicine, and what like the old prescripts were about, like how to treat a patient. And what I found again was like, okay, if the practitioner is sort of rooted in spirits and has like an empty heart and is really connected with the natural flow of energy, he has the strongest effect in his work, in his patients, and is least affected also by the emotions of the patient or whatever. So I started combining Chinese medicine acupuncture sessions with the heart coherence, because I figured if that works for me, that it should work for my patients too. And since they're on that table anyway, why not put the the heart coherence biofeedback on there, and a lot, train them in how to do the breathing and how to root themselves and to empty out like all emotions and really become like still, find that inner stillness. And that has been a great way to work with people, I noticed.
It sounds like a good a bypass, so to say, because if we would ask our patients to do some Qigong or Tai Chi, which might have some similar effect, most of them would just not do it, actually. But if you are already on the table, like you said, then you can practice with them. It's an easier way maybe to introduce actually.
Yeah, and I also noticed that if I train them when they're here on the table and they have a positive experience, it's more likely that they will try it at home.
Yeah.
And they realize here, like, oh, I don't have to have this special room in my house or a yoga mat or a cushion or some special ritual. I can just lie in my bed and even, before I fall asleep, do this little practice. And it's not a religious something. It's, really about learning to understand your own mind, to understand your body, and to regulate the nervous system. And that is something that came after that when I found out about like the work of Stephen Porges and the polyvagal theory, and how to, but basically also heart coherence is a way of balancing the nervous system and the vagal nerves. So yeah, I thought it was really beautiful to see all that come together. And this deep longing we all have, no matter what age, for safety, for truly feeling safe, and how important that is for our biology, for our health, for our development, and especially for the development of young children.
It's a nice way to put it, that we all search for this safety, actually, as a really basic need.
Yeah, and I realized that safety is not the presence, or safety is not the absence of a threat. Safety is not like someone standing at the door guarding my house 24/7 with a gun because maybe someone could come in. True safety is the presence of a feeling of connection. And the presence of that feeling of connection can be with yourself and your higher self or your inner self. But of course, it can also be the presence of a feeling of connection with others. And we see that also in child development. Even if children grow up in really difficult circumstances with a lot of adverse childhood experiences, if they had only one person that they could feel safe with, that they could really feel that connection with, they have way better outcomes later in life regarding to health, mental health, stability, success, income, so many factors. So it's a very basic need, and I think it's more than basic because it's the doorway to thriving.
Yeah, it takes me to your book, and I will make a small roundabout to come back to your book, because you mentioned Stephen Porges and children, and then I thought about your book. And when I was reading more about your book, I thought, wow, that's some parts really are similar to what Mate Gabo is speaking about in his book. I'm referring to the last book, The Myth of Normal. And I will read just one quote from there, which actually echoes what you say and is actually quoting somebody else, Dr. Neufeld, who said, children must feel an invitation to exist in our presence exactly the way they are. And I think it's some kind of a feeling of safety. I am okay the way I am, and I can feel safe. And as a basic, maybe the most basic need that children need. And your book that you published, I think it was already 2 years ago now in Dutch, speaks about the first 1,000 years, you call it, 1,000 days. No, the 1,000 days of a child. And how do you see this combined with your work of love, actually?
Yes. Well, this happened around the time my third son was born. By the time I was an experienced mother, and I really wanted to. I knew this is like the third child. There's not gonna come any other. So I'm really gonna savor this experience. This. Now I know how my body works during a pregnancy and what I can expect of birthing, and so I did a lot of research on what happens actually in the physiology of childbearing and birthing, and it was an amazing experience. I truly came through that experience like, wow, if every woman in the world could birth like this, or could have this kind of support during her birthing experience, we would have a completely different world. I could also see it in my son, and this also came back to that first story about the first one, realizing how important already the first 9 months in the womb are, and how much influence they have on the future health and well-being of a child. So I had done a lot of research in that, and I started working with pregnant women and with couples that wanted to conceive, and I started a foundation, the Geboortenis, which is a Dutch word for, you could say, the birthing, a combination of birth house and birthing experience. Because I realized if we really want to change health and healthcare in the world, we have to start at the beginning. And we have to start at the first beginning of life, which is basically the first 1,000 days of a life, starting at conception, or you could even say like the 40 days before conception, and then onward till the year 2 years old. And what you said just about that quote, there's two very important things we all need when we are born and when we come in this world. And that is, the first need is to have that connection, to have the safe bonding, the safe person to bond with, to feel part of a bigger, to have a parent or another person that you can really connect with. And so that's number one. But the second one is even also just as important, and that's the need for authenticity. So to be, not only to get the warm welcome, but also just the way you are, just like you described, like to be authentic and to be seen in that authenticity and to be held in that authenticity. And why is authenticity so important for us, even from an evolutionary standpoint? Authenticity is our doorway to intuition. So if you're on a plane and or you're in a forest and you have this gut feeling like I need to go right or left, or there's something dangerous coming up or whatever, that is a super important information. Just the other day, I was watching a documentary about a crew going into the Arctic and doing all this research, and they had to cross a plain, a frozen field of ice that was 120,000 years old. And they knew there were like these shafts, these basically the ice breaks and you can fall in, and if you fall in, you're dead, you're done. And they had to walk, and it was whiteout, so they couldn't see anything. And at some point, the first guy says, like, I don't feel it anymore. I think we should just stop for today. It's too white. We can't see anything. We might be close to these crevasses. It's dangerous. I think we should stop. So they decided to stop. They made up camp. They did all the research. The next morning, the sun comes up, and their camp is like 20 meters away of a huge thing, hole in the ground. So if they would have continued, they would have gone in there. And this is authenticity. This is truly having learned to listen to that inner voice. And it's so important for our survival. And right now we see that kids always have to, or almost always have to choose either the authenticity or the bonding. And that's the work of Gabor Mate, what he says about adverse childhood experiences. This is stress for a young child growing up. Because if I have to, if I have to give up my true self to be loved, then I learn like I cannot be myself.
Yeah.
If I survive by being myself, but I have to give up the bonding with others, you become a narcissist, or it's really hard later in life to trust people again.
Yeah.
I really am excited because we're gonna meet Gabor Mate in Holland this coming September.
Oh wow!
So I'm part of an organization, a group of organizations that are hosting a day with him.
Oh, I should come to visit. One of my current heroes.
Yes,
Okay.
and it's going to be live streamed as well, so people from all over can watch it. But I really love that book, The Myth of Normal. It is thick. I mean, it's this thick, and it's a lot of information.
It's big.
Big. And it typifies me. I love books like that. I'm sort of a nerd that is asked, like, how did you do it? Well, I basically read everything I could get my hands on for 15, 20 years. And then I started practicing it. So then because my children were there, I didn't have time to read anymore. I told myself, now you move from your head to your heart and further down to the body and really start to experience these things. So I went through a lot of coaching and therapy myself. I did trainings to understand better, like, how does my body work? And that led basically to the book, because it's in Dutch and it's called Life Force, for the Dutch people, Levenskracht. And it's your first 1,000 days in a new light. Because I realized that we all have these imprints. We have all sacrificed a part of ourselves when growing up. The myth of normal basically tells us that we are all traumatized. We all have stored trauma in our bodies. No matter how beautiful your upbringing or your life has been, if it's not from this life, it is from your ancestors or transgenerational imprints. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Actually, I think it's part of our life journey to discover what it is and to see how it's so deeply related to your golden path. So your golden path in Chinese medicine, have following your Ming, living your Ming, is something I first learned about from Lillian Probridge's the Master Face Reader, and it was like another piece of the puzzle. Like, oh wow, if we really live our Ming, if we follow our golden path, if we live our true face, then all these pieces, even the transgenerational trauma or the trauma we had in life, makes sense because it's part of a bigger story.
Good to be part of a bigger story. It's a bit speaking about this feeling of belonging. I'm not alone here. I mean, it fucked me up a bit, but I'm part of something bigger. It's some kind of exchange. I was wondering when you mentioned this, how do you see this in your clinic? So with grown-ups now, so do you think the current problems you see they are often or always related to these 1,000 days? Are you going back and to ask about it, or are you just treating it in your own way while you're treating back pain or infertility? Or how is it becoming practical in your daily life?
Well, I always ask people about how were they, in what circumstances were they conceived? How did their mothers live during the pregnancy? Where and how were they born?
Most of them know. Sorry that I cut your way of.
Some of them know, some of them don't. Some of them go back home and ask their parents.
There's
Some
already a healing
parents have
process by
already died,
itself.
but yeah, it's a magical process because they suddenly realize a lot of things start to make sense. I just had a man this week in my clinic who explained, just mentioned sort of sideways, yeah, by the way, I was born with this vacuum and they pulled me out, and then he was describing a pattern in his life where he usually would stall until someone would basically give him a push or pull him forward, and he would get so annoyed about if they would do that. And I was like, oh, it's interesting, that's something that happened in the very beginning of your life. Maybe you wanted to go slower, maybe you wanted to have your own pace, and they basically, that experience made you feel like, oh, why can't I have my own pace? And now whenever you want to have your own pace of things and people push you, you get annoyed because that's that old imprint. And becoming aware of that, he realized, oh wow, so it's important for me to find my own pace. It's natural that I think that's important and that I want to explore that. And I was like, yeah, that's your evolution. That's something you really that helps you also in your work, because he was a psychologist and he said, yeah, because it can totally relate to people that need to take their time for certain things. It's like, yeah, that's your magical power. So that's how I integrate this. So I ask about it, we have conversations about it. I read people, so I'm a face reader, but also the information they give, and I remember. So when something comes up later in the conversation or later in the process, I connect the dots. I help them to connect dots. And I love to bring things in a positive light, to really have them realize that things happen for a reason, or in a sense that there's always, on every dark side, there's a light side. And on every light side, there might be a dark side we're not seeing yet, that needs healing or that needs some care. And basically the book I used to explain all these different things, like about the heart coherence and the polyvagal theory, and about birthing imprints, and like what Gabor Mate explains also, that our childhood stress has an effect on our biology and our neurobiology, and how that influences later in life, or susceptibility to certain disease, or yeah, so I guess I'm also a bit of an advocate for women's health, you could say, in like relation to that, and because I feel that we have in the Western world very little understanding of the feminine physiology, because the Western research was always done on men, and not on pregnant women, and well, because women are complicated with their biology and their cycles and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to explore that more. That's a new frontier that's opening up for me, to explore and to go deeper into. Yeah, so that's how I integrate those first 1,000 days and inspire my colleagues and health professionals, but also policymakers to really take it serious. That if we invest in the first 1,000 days, uh, we are basically building a new humanity in a very different way.
I have
Um,
goosebumps.
yeah, thank you.
It's like a dream, and today when we talk, I feel even positive about it. So it's even better. And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward for the English version of the book. I'm sure I'm going to love it. It's just touches on all these topics, which and that was my question I wanted to ask you actually. Why do you think it's suddenly so? I don't know if it's suddenly, it's already longer time, but it suddenly became more mainstream, maybe, or so, even hip, so to say, to talk about those things. Is it?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's incredible how that speeded up. I think Corona played a big part, because people were at home. They had extra time. Also, there was a lot of online trainings easily accessible, so a lot of knowledge was exchanged all over the world. Um, Internet has done a great part in that too. I mean, see your incredible organization and the amount of knowledge that is present in your community and how easily it can be shared. I mean, look at me, I'm talking to people in Australia and San Francisco, and I mean, it's incredible. And
Maybe your
so this
acupuncturist
is
from 20 years ago is watching us. Who knows?
who knows.
That would be
uh
nice.
yeah. And well, so I think that played a part, and also post-COVID syndrome, people having unexplainable uh, complaints or problems. Uh, and a lot of that I feel was partly trauma related, because it's a triggering of old trauma or even ancestral trauma with, for example, tuberculosis, which is a lung disease as well. And a lot of families have lost, like in 17th and 18th century in Europe. I mean, even I know from my family, one ancestral line, I think 6 or 7 kids died in one winter because of tuberculosis. So I think in a very deep evolutionary part of our systems, we realized during COVID that, wow, this could happen again somehow, or that was triggered, and people started looking for answers. And then all the knowledge is there. The research is accelerating, the neurobiology research about stress and the effects of stress on the brain, and even projects. I was listening today to a Mind and Life podcast about the neurobiology of stress and training, and how Buddhist monks are now educated to become scientists also, and to do research in the lab with electrodes on the brain and researching the meditation effect and stuff like that. I mean, uh, 20 years ago when I was in Dharamsala, we had like 5 computers in one town, and it was so
I
different.
was there
And
at the same time. I remember.
oh, you were in
Yeah,
2002. Oh, we should have
yeah,
met on the street. Yeah,
yeah.
wow. Yeah. So it's a very fast-paced world. And at the same time, I think that's also scary in a sense. Obviously, we also have terrible wars going on, and you can see everything online, so people are shocked by that too.
Yeah,
Um,
they're very close to
and
the events.
yeah, so pain is a motivator also. Though I love to inspire people to get motivated by joy and by bliss, not wait for the pain to happen, because I mean shit happens anyway, and
Yeah.
it will at some point, somewhere in your life. So
Mm.
why not use joy as a fuel to keep going. Yeah.
Unfortunately, people don't show up in our clinic, say, hey, I'm so joyful. Can you help me to do something
No,
with
then
it?
we get worried because they're too joyful.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I mean more as education, like following
Yeah,
trainings or doing courses or
you mentioned it before. It's a lot about somehow influencing policymakers to take larger steps in the community, but it all starts in also in small rooms with Elaine Duncan, who was often here. She speaks a lot about the vibration of the medicine, and once you help one person to see this, it's vibrate to the neighbor or to the partner, and then it slowly grows. And I think it's part of the
yeah.
importance of what we do.
That's also the coherence effect. Also, they realize that if one person in a room is very coherent, it's um the others get, coherent as well. And they also studied, like, if you smile at someone on the street, that smile carries like 5, 6, 7 people.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's we can make big changes by small gestures, especially if we do them consciously and know what, like,
Yeah,
with the intention also.
yeah. That's I need a good place to absorb
Me
everything and
too.
to enjoy it. Yeah, and Joy is saying that it's part of her name, so maybe we should also think about how to bring joy in different ways into people's names and uh, other stuff which causes different vibration. I think we're slowly coming towards the end of this discussion, and maybe I will ask anybody who wants to join us, say something, share something, or ask a question to raise their virtual hand, and I will then ask you to join us in the room so we can see faces and connect with you. I think this would be nice, and so you just feel free to raise your hands. And yeah, one of my favorite things on being online, like you said, we are online, we're meeting people from all over the world, and we are kind of in no man's land. And it allows us to do what we want. And I decided to steal one thing I've seen in a podcast I like, and it's called the shameless promotion. Uh, it's called shameless promotion time. So it's time for you to speak a little bit more about your work. You mentioned this organization, which actually I will go later to read more about because I find it interesting. The Geboor, oh, it was, ich habe mein Niederländisch vergeten. I don't remember, I forgot it. But you said something in Dutch. That
Geboortenis.
geboren is. Yeah, I will go and practice my Dutch and the book, which hopefully will find the right place in English. And I know you have some other stuff coming up that maybe you want to share with us.
Yes, thank you. Well, there's indeed a few things I can share about the things I do. I'll put in the chat for you, especially here, the geboortenis, and also the English part we wrote about that. So people can connect with me through socials, through my practice, and this biophoton technology is also working on online, you could say, so in distance. So it's very interesting. If you're interested in that, reach out and find out more about that.
Yeah,
And we did talks on the heart coherence at the
we did.
TCMA.
Yeah,
So if people want to know more about those courses and really dive into heart coherence, I really invite you to
I will
do
put
the
it in the
courses.
chat
There's
as
a
well.
free one, and there is a few one 3-part training.
Yeah,
And I really enjoyed doing that. I think a year, 1.5 years ago. And if you really love heart coherence, in the end of August, I will host a Power of the Heart retreat. And you can read already about it on this website of my colleagues and myself, which is an international website. of the 5 Elements Wisdom Academy, and the 5 Elements Power of the Heart training. And when you read this, you will see it's in Italy, but it will be in the Holland area of where I live, in the east of Holland, in the end of August. And if you're interested, just reach out, and we'll put you on the wait list. And as soon as the dates are finalized, we can let you in. And what is already formalized, or you could say ready to go, is the Golden Path Face Reading Workshop, which I'll be hosting in the Netherlands in the retreat center that is part of my clinic in the east of Holland, which is a beautiful place in the middle of nowhere. And Kelly Harrington and Deirdre Courtney, my master face reading colleagues from the US and Ireland, are coming to Holland, and together we will host a Golden Path face reading 2-day workshop in which you will read your own face and read your own golden path and learn more about like what is your golden path and how to find out more about the golden path in your own faces, but also of course in your clients later on. It was the first training I ever did with Lillian Pearl Bridges. She was one of my most inspiring teachers in the years 2010 till her death in 2019, I believe. And an incredible woman who left an incredible legacy of face reading mastery. And we're very excited to share with people what she taught us. I think the face reading is one of the most magical courses I ever did. I felt like a Harry Potter school with about 16 different nationalities in one room in Copenhagen, and really diving into this material, which is super fascinating. And so I'm really excited about this workshop that's coming up, because I really feel it's basically about the heart of what I do. I really help people to find their golden path, to live it, and to bring their health, through living that golden path back into balance. So
and it's beautiful that you carry the torch also. She was incredible, and I'm really lucky I had the chance to meet her in person live. And then later, one time we did one class live together, still in the beginning of the Corona, I think it was. Just very little enough to feel the inspiration. And it's beautiful that you can also share this and continue this lineage.
It's really beautiful what we can pass on, and we really miss her, but I think she's in a place she likes right now, so she should be fine.
That's good. That's good. Okay, I think that everybody else in the room is very shy and didn't want to join us, but we are still in the mode of love and spreading the love, so it's okay. I think it's part of the most important thing that we spoke about, is to feel safe and secure, and sometimes the transition from the behind the scene to the front, it's too much. I know it was for me first when I had to start talking to people here on this screen. But then I remember Lillian, when I met her, she was just going to go on the stage, and I had a talk with her, and she said she's so nervous. She don't know what to do, and I thought, oh my God, I don't know how this woman is going to talk. She was so nervous looking, and then she went on the stage, and it was a transformation. She was like I don't know, Oprah Winfrey or someone. She was on the stage. She was so lively and lovely and funny and smart, and it was in her element. And so every time I have to talk, I think about this woman and how she just transforms. That's my inspiration.
She really knew how to turn on her peach luck, you could say, and how to really embody that Shen, that strong spirit power that she carried, and to do that on stage and to also emit it to others. It was really a transmission to be with her in a room and to receive that, and to witness that those transformations. She was teaching about that, absolutely. And we can all, I think it inspired me to I'm usually also quite more a shy person, maybe, but when I get on stage like this, I get inspired, and it's fun.
But
And I understand if people have no questions or don't know like oh what now. So we could just also finish off with just a little breathing, just a
yeah,
little heart coherence, and
let's do it.
yeah, just to really
It sounds like a
uh,
beautiful way to finish.
yeah, okay. And there's one question from um,
Oh yeah.
the recommended biofeedback machine. Do you mean Natao? I think you're Australia. I will just call you Australia if you don't mind. You mean a biofeedback machine for the heart coherence that you can find through the HeartMath Institute, heartmath.org or heartmath.com, I believe. If you would like to learn more about the biophoton technology, that's the Being in Balance in Holland. Let's see. And I think we have an English website too. But Meta Vital is also the organization in Germany who has, you know, founded these machines. And it's a whole different topic we can talk about some other time. But yeah, tea for a little practice. Yes, we do a
I'm
little
in
practice.
for it. I'm just going to. Oh, you posted in the chat, but only I can see it. I'm afraid because it was posted to. So let me just copy this.
Oh,
Being
okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
being
Cool.
in
Oh, yeah.
balance. No worries. Um,
Um,
I think this was this being in balance. And don't run away. We are going to make a little exercise, and then you can run away. And it was Meta
yeah,
Vital.
and I see that I put all the links to you and not to the rest
Yeah,
of the group. So
yeah.
I
So you
just
can
put down
repeat them.
there. I will repeat them here. What? No, this is something else.
I will help you. Here is the. This is your power of the heart training.
Oh yeah, yeah. Great. Thank you.
Mm.
Yes. And
And the golden pass I will also put here for those who are
I
interested in
think I put
this.
that already in,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
it's always good to do another
Yeah.
time.
Always. Um.
Yeah. I'm based in Zutphen and Dalsen, which is so the Golden Path will be in Dalsen. And my clinic is partly in Zutphen, and I will also work at the retreat center in Dalsen.
So I think it's time for practice.
It's time for practice.
Yes.
Okay, so for anyone who's still here and would like to join us, take a moment to take a very deep breath and sort of allow that to go through your body into the ground, and maybe lean back in your chair, or you find it comfortable to close your eyes. You can close your eyes or just gaze at something beautiful and connect with your body again, connect with your feet. That's the only danger I feel of all these Zoom calls, is that we are almost becoming like etheric somewhere in the outer space, and then we have to return back to life, and life is here on earth, and earth is here under our feet, under our chair. It's such a beautiful planet and such a lovely um, organism to connect with, and to appreciate. So as you breathe in and out, just connect with your heart and feel how your heart is connected with the earth. And maybe you can feel a little gratitude coming up for that planet that offers you a home. The place you live. the roof above your head. And the body you embody, that is your vehicle through life. And as you breathe in and out, you imagine how the air fills your lungs and the space around your heart. And how that space sort of grows bigger and bigger, enveloping your whole body. And it's Valentine's Day, so think about something you love, or a person you love, or an animal you love, or a dear friend, a dear place. And as that emotion grows stronger by your deepening of your breath, feel how it influences that space around you. Feel how it helps your heart to be emptied out with of all sort of preoccupations or stress or thoughts. And how that kindness and the gentleness and the loving finds you. Allow yourself to be found by love. It's an effortless allowing, stepping out of the way, stepping out of your own way. An upwelling of inspiration, joy, community, wonder about how all around the world right now, people just like you have an aspiration for more love in the world. And how we, by knowing of each other, knowing of this community, can find strength to do our little part in that. And feel how that loving feeling of joy and communion just slowly moves upward to your eyes, as if your eyes sparkle, as if you, after this call, you close down your computer, just walk to a mirror and look in your own eyes and see the sparkle, see the joy, see the beauty in you. And just whisper, I love you to yourself. See what happens. Take a few final deep breaths and just stretch out your body. Just, move a little bit again. And I really thank you all for being here today, and you especially for inviting me and the TC Men Academy. It's been a great joy again.
Thank you, Nienke. Dr. Love on Valentine's Day. And thank you, everybody who joined us. And thank you for the work. And I'm sure we'll meet again, maybe in September and maybe before or after. So thank you. Good night or good day, good morning, everybody.
Yes, have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful evening.